Hello and welcome to the Ourlads Depth Charts Show. I'm your host, Ryan McKee, and this is the show where we go through all the NFL news and depth chart movement, give you our insights into what is happening, and I am joined today by David Syvertsen, one of our scouts at Ourlads. I'm joined by our Duke of Depth Charts. Took me a second to remember your title. Duke of Depth Charts, Tucker Moss, who updates all of our depth charts, and the Prince of Punters himself, Cory Henke. How's it going, guys?
Great. Good, Ryan. How are you, man?
Oh, so good. Excited to be talking football with you guys today. We actually have a game tonight. How exciting is that? Are you going to watch the Hall of Fame game?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
No, please. Okay, yeah.
1,000%, yeah. I'm tuning
This is
in.
one of the least viewed football games in preseason football, but it still beats pretty much every Major League Baseball and NBA regular season game you're ever going to watch.
Totally.
That's how dedicated the football fans are, and that's how desperate we are to see those logos go at it on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's jump right into some of our latest news items before we get to the Hall of Fame game preview. We've had a story. The NFL is moving closer to replacing chain gangs with new technology to measure line to gain. Do we, as football fans, how much do we care about this? We can be as purist as we want, but we got to admit it would speed up the time of the game potentially, and it would, take the human error aspect out of it. Dave, where do you sit on this?
It's very similar to baseball staying with human umpires rather than an electrical system or a digital system, in terms of a machine will tell you if it was objectively a strike or a ball. I'm on the old school side of things where I like the human element to sports. I like referees and judges because I think it adds to the tradition of the unknown, right? Where that was the call right, was the call wrong. But with the amount of money that is trading hands now with gambling, with spreads and even player props, you can bet on who's going to be the leading rusher tonight, and that can be off or on by a yard or two, and that can honestly be decided by a referee that doesn't really know where the ball was when a running back came down. And so from that, I could see both sides of the argument. I do lean towards, I like the human element to sports. I think there's an art to that. I don't think everything in this world needs to be scientific and objectively correct. But because I think that adds to the dramatic effect of where's the ball going to be placed. And then talking out of both sides of my mouth, I do like the idea of potentially speeding the game up, because there's nothing worse than watching a game and watching 10 minutes waste by referees trying to figure out if the ball is 2 inches further than it needed to be.
Yeah. Well, looking at the other side, Cory, you are a huge technology advocate, so you must like this.
Yeah, well, I want to go back to what Dave said. I was a little surprised to hear, measurement being so objective that, I totally get balls and strikes, and, I love instant replay, but I also love the discretion umpires have to feel the referees have to feel the game, as it goes, maybe give a call, take a call. But when it comes down to distance, I think it's a no-brainer. I feel like let's get that right, but totally a purist, and I don't want to see some things change. But I was kind of surprised. We were chatting yesterday in the production show about putting markers in the balls and whatnot. And there are RFID tags in the NFL footballs currently, and players wearing RFID tags in their shoulder pads. So I see this kind of the NFL's way, that's 10 years strong, so I think the technology's been there to do it. I think this is maybe a little far away going into them being deliberate and slow. But anything that can keep the game fair, I'm first and foremost think it needs to be evaluated, take some of the subjectiveness out of it. And overall, I think it's the NFL taking a step in the right direction. It's hard to argue that they've missed too many game improvement and fan improvements. So I think if and when it becomes law of the NFL, I'll be really excited.
Yeah. Well, I'm pro technology, so I do like the human element, but as a gambler, I hate to think of me missing a prop bet because of a misjudged human element of the yardage. So definitely gonna go for that. Moving on, we have some Giants offensive line changes. Ex-Raiders lineman Jermaine Erlemarner.
Illuminor.
And Greg Von Rotten joined their offensive line coach Carmen Basilio in a move to the Giants. Dave, I'll let you take this since you're the Giants fan.
Yeah, Brasillo, the offensive line coach, came over from the Raiders this past year, and the Giants' offensive line situation with this regime, with the previous regime, with the regime prior to them, has been bottom of the barrel. They just cannot find solutions to the massive problems that they have. Every time they cover up one leak, another one comes out. Some of it's personnel, some of it's free agency money, and a lot of it has been coaching. They have not been able to find that quality offensive line coach that can truly develop young talent, but also implement veteran talent and create chemistry in a quick window. And this guy coming over from Vegas, this happens a lot in the NFL. When you see a coach change from one team to the other, they like their guys and they have a lot of inside information on how these guys are as workers, as leaders, and of course, as players. And Jermaine Illuminor, who is a right tackle, right guard flex, was a hedge against Evan Neal, who is having massive lower body injury issues, in addition to playing really poorly when he's on the field. They want to give him a shot at right tackle. He has not seen the practice field yet. So right now he is inserted as the starting right tackle. That's who this front office really wanted to pursue in free agency this past offseason. And Van Roten, who was just signed a couple of days ago, has right guard center flex, because right now the Giants center, John Michael Schmitz, is not practicing. So he actually practiced at center today. I read that up before we came on today. So it just gives them two options. And if Schmitz comes back, which is expected at center, there's a very strong chance the Giants just signed their starting right guard for week 1, which is pretty rare for this time of year.
That's great. What do you think about the depth at offensive line there, Tucker?
Yeah, they're really like Dave said, they're really trying guys at a lot of positions right now. So it's really hard to pin down, to write those guys' names down in pen. It's very kind of up in the air right now. But I will say, yeah, I actually just was shuffling them around due to what's going on and how they just signed Van Roten. Because before it was going to be like they're going to give Evan Neal another shot at right tackle. This was like back in a month ago, if you asked. They're going to give Evan Neal another shot to be the starter at right tackle. Illuminor is going to be the left guard, and Runyon will be John Runyon, their other guy they signed from the Packers. He'll be their right guard. But now Neal's been banged up, hasn't gone to practice, so Illuminor is going to be a right tackle. Runyon will be left guard, maybe going back to where he normally plays, and then Van Roten at right guard. It's possible Aaron Stinney might compete for one of the spots too. So, yeah, they have a lot of guys they brought in, and I think it's kind of up to the coaching aspect. I think O-line is very important. The O-line coach is very important when it comes to how they play and the scheme. So, yeah, it should be exciting because it's a lot of turnover from last year.
Daniel Jones' best year ever coming behind this line?
They're doing everything they can to provide him with the strongest support system possible, including that number 6 overall pick. But I mean, it's out now. Cat's out of the bag. They did pursue a trade up for Drake May and/or Jaden Daniels in the draft, and they just could not come to an agreement, or they just did not believe in those guys enough to make the Ricky Williams type offer to go up and get one of those guys from the Patriots. But, the plan B, that was plan A. Plan B was let's support this guy in every possible way we can. The owner, who loves Daniel Jones, is quoted saying that we've done pretty much everything possible to ruin this kid's development. Coaching, offensive line, lack of playmakers. So to say that this could be his best year, sure. It doesn't mean much, though, because there isn't much to build off of what he's done.
I'd say that's a great White House press secretary answer. That was just quite the sidestep around.
Yeah.
I was waiting for you to answer Ryan's question there, but sure.
Well, let's move on to our depth charts, risers and fallers. Tucker, can you take us through some of the names that you wrote down for today?
Yeah, so there's quite a few. So I just kind of highlighted a couple that I've been changing recently. Just have to read, training camp reports from every team, and it's just constantly, changing with who's playing first team reps. And a lot of teams are just experimenting with, having guys face up against second team defense, first team defense, and see kind of how they do in different roles, especially with how important versatility is in today's game. But the Chiefs, their second round pick out of BYU, Kingsley Suamataia, he's getting most of the first team reps at left tackle so far, over like who we kind of presumed would be the left tackle was Wanya Morris, who they signed last year in the third round. So that's been pretty cool because it's pretty impressive to win out when someone had a whole year head start over you in that system. It's not like they announced that yet or anything, but he's been getting a lot of the first team reps. So I moved him up to first string. I moved Alec Pierce back ahead of AD Mitchell again because apparently it's been kind of he's kind of been slow at developing there, and Pierce has been doing a really good job fighting for that spot, and he's usually been getting the first team reps there as well. Not like usually they kind of defer to the veteran guy that had the job last year, but I think this is a case where it's possible or likely that Pierce has the job week one. And then the other thing, which has to do with kind of one of the injury news pieces, was that one of their edge rushers, Samson Ebicom, he's out for the season probably due to a torn Achilles. But they did draft Latu in the first round, who was like the first defender taken. So that'll be. It happens that their room is quite deep there, so it might not be the end of the world. And I know they like Kwity Paye, obviously, is the other starter there, and Dio Odingbo and Taekwon Lewis, who's a versatile D lineman. So they have plenty of solutions there, but we might be able to see more play from that first round pick, Latu.
All right. Well, that's exciting because we liked Latu a lot coming out of the draft. Is that right, Dave, in our Ourlads scouting guide?
Yeah, we had him above Dallas Turner, which I'm not sure many people had, and he ended up being the top guy in that class, and that's with the injury concerns. You took out some of the injury concerns that almost forced him into retirement when he started off at the University of Washington. He comes out, even with that medical red flag, still graded out as the top defensive lineman in this class. And, this is a team that was 6th in the NFL in sacks, but 26th in pressure rate. So it's a fun discussion to have. Do you want to have a defensive line that, full of closers, full of finishers, that they get to the quarterback and take him down? Or do you want guys that more frequently put that pressure on the quarterback? And that's what the Colts don't have as of right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we had some suspension news as well. Tucker, can you take us through the suspensions?
Yeah, there was just a couple, and they're pretty notable. So Danico Autry for the Texans, I had him as like one of their starting D tackles. That would have been next to Foley Fatukasi at defensive tackle. They brought in a few guys there. It's kind of overhauled from last year, and so it's looking like at least their depth chart they released for the preseason game, they had Mario Edwards as their other starter. We'll see how that battle shakes out, because there's a few guys I know that are pretty close with him. Tim Settle from Buffalo that they signed, and then there are two guys kind of in-house, Khalil Davis and Kurt Hinish from last year. They're also competing there, so it's not the end of the world there. They're pretty they have a pretty good rotation. It might be more concerning because he also served as as an edge rusher for them, so that is a little bit weak in terms of depth, which is why they signed Jerry Hughes. It's just kind of dependent on when Dylan Horton comes back from. I know he had a cancer diagnosis last year, and now he's in remission. So it's kind of a question of how long he takes to kind of recover before he can be in playing shape again. And then for the other suspension, these are both 6-game suspensions for PEDs, by the way. So just random tests that happened. And unfortunately, they got in trouble.
I need an sound effect every time. And
then the other
PEDs.
The other was Arden Key from Tennessee, and that one's a little bit worse because they don't have. He was going to be one of the starting outside linebackers for them, across from Harold Landry, and they're pretty shallow there in that room. So like I just moved Rashad Weaver up to be a starter, but like I don't know, he hasn't played too many snaps, especially I don't know if he's started before. I definitely expect them to sign some veteran out there because it's just a pretty weak room. Like a couple of guys that are undrafted free agents last year. So we'll have to see there, but that's definitely the position to monitor for the Titans.
All right. Any thoughts on either of those suspensions, Corey or Dave, before we move on to our Hall of Fame game preview?
I was just thinking we might have to test Tucker for PEDs with how good he is at tracking these moves and how fast he is.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a lot of recovering endurance.
You on Adderall? You on Adderall, Tucker? Yeah. Okay, there you go.
I didn't knowingly ingest any.
That's what they all say. I don't know how I got
That's
what they all say.
Autry did say that. That's such a, and it's, man, I feel terrible if that's true.
Yeah.
I mean,
his actually was a little like his like he really like was saying like, no, we're actually pursuing like a legal.
Well, good for him. Good for him. Pound the facts or pound the table, and that's a lot of money, a lot of games for guys that love to play. If they wrongfully did it, you hate to see him sit out.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so we have some football happening tonight. It's the Hall of Fame game, and we get it. Not a lot of the starters will be playing, if any. However, that is perfect for the Ourlads Depth Charts because you can pull up the Ourlads Depth Chart and see a lot of these guys who are playing. So let's start with the Texans side of the ball. Going to pull up their depth chart and talk a little bit about what we expect for tonight's game. Now, one of the things I noted on our production sheet of things to watch for is the Houston's deep RB wide receiver depth chart is what I mean. We've got a lot of names there competing for just a few spots. Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, obviously the leaders in the clubhouse. But we've got Robert Woods, who's a longtime veteran. John Mechie, who's shown some flashes. Dave, what are you thinking about what we're going to see tonight in this Hall of Fame game? Are we going to see any of those names I just mentioned, or are we going to be the other side of the depth chart?
Yeah, I think that you're not going to see those first three names, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell. Again, I love how Ourlads has this set up. It's just really easy to see who's first string, second string. Even that second string group, Noah Brown, Robert Woods, those guys are old. They're on the back half of their career. They have a lot of experience. They both have been banged up in recent years. My guess is we won't see them. But John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson, two guys that this team drafted over the past three drafts, are going to have my eye tonight. John Mechie, if you remember, he missed 2022, his rookie season, because of a leukemia diagnosis. So, and he came back, and he was a pretty highly touted prospect. We had him graded as a round 2 guy, and that means we think you're going to be a starting receiver at the next level. And he missed his rookie season as he was recovering. He got his feet wet last year, but you saw the emergence of Nico Collins last year and Tank Dell, and we just didn't see enough from him last year, and it's nothing against him. It might take him more time to really regain his form, but he has been turning heads since the spring, and he's starting to turn heads again, and I hope we see him on the field tonight. Xavier Hutchinson, the last guy here that I'm really going to be watching tonight in terms of making this roster, is a 6th rounder that we all had as a day 3 pick when he came out of Iowa State, a record setter for that program. Does not check every box athletically when it comes to speed explosion, but he's as polished and as tough as you're going to find. And, he tore it up in training camp last year. He might be one of those guys like the Warriors of summer that just can't get on the field during the fall. But he can make a name for himself tonight. And, you have those roster hopefuls in Steven Sims and Ben Skoranek.
Do we know if Davis Mills is starting tonight at the quarterback position?
That is to be determined, but that is where everyone is leaning towards. DeMeco Ryans has been a little kind of hush-hush about what they're doing tonight. You almost never see the starters in this game. It's just, it's too quick for a lot of these guys to get on the field and play live football. But it's likely that we'll see Davis Mills start tonight. And it's this team will probably carry 3 quarterbacks, so he doesn't have a roster spot in jeopardy. It'll probably be him and Case Keenum at the end.
All right. Now, another spot where they are crowded is the running back room. They just added Cam Akers as an unrestricted free agent. Tucker, do we expect Cam Akers to play in this game, fighting for a roster spot?
For sure, yeah. I would expect I expect anyone there except for Mixon probably to be playing, especially with like if the return game, like Pierce, I know they love. I mean, he's been great at returning kickoffs last year, anyways. So I'd like to see him with the new kickoff rules. But yeah, it's just there's a lot of running backs there competing for just 3 or 4 spots. So it depends how many they keep. They have Jawar Jordan they drafted at Ohio State in the 6th round. And then I know JJ Taylor's also been getting like 3rd team reps. So it just depends how many they keep. When it comes to the return game, I wanted to mention too is that Steven Sims, who we have as a 3rd string guy, he's like their starting punt returner, like that they listed. So it's really, I'm really curious to see how many wide receivers they end up keeping, because I mean, could they keep 7? And if so, then do they cut Robert Woods, or like how do they make room there? Because I feel like they might want to skew towards a little bit younger with Xavier Hutchinson. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure they'll get a lot of reps in with those younger guys at receiver.
Yeah. Any thoughts on Jawar Jordan getting some reps here tonight, Dave? Did you like him coming out of Ohio State?
We did. We had a day 3 grade on him. He's going to turn 25 in a couple of weeks. He's on the older side for rookies, but this Houston franchise since 2020, they've ranked 31st, 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 and 26th in rushing in this league. They just have not been able to kind of wrap their heads around how to fix this problem for this offense. And now that you have CJ Stroud, the door will be opened up to take a little bit of pressure off that backfield. But Jordan's the kind of explosive threat that these guys in front of him, he has those explosive tools that those guys do not have. He can stand out tonight. And these Hall of Fame games are usually very run heavy. That's usually what offenses like to implement early in training camp, is get that system down. Then they start to open it up later on. And so I think we're going to see a lot of him tonight. This is the one back that I think has the most to gain. I think he'll get the most touches, as long as, and this is something I don't know, is has he picked up pass protection protocols? That's usually what keeps young backs off the field early on, is do they really know how to pick up the blitz and where to go? Because if they don't, they're going to get their quarterback's head taken off. So if he has checked those boxes, we're going to see a lot of him tonight. And he showed a lot of big play potential before getting nicked up in November last year. And this is a guy that averaged 6 yards of carry over his last 2 years at Louisville. So it's something to keep an eye on tonight. Number 42.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Looking forward to watching him. Tucker mentioned the special teams, and Corey, as our special teams expert here, this is our first time seeing the new kickoff rules in place, right? Can you explain a little bit about what that means?
Well, I'm not sure we'll see tremendously more kicks run out of the end zone this year. They're still kicking it off from the 35. These guys will put it 5, 6, 7, 8 yards deep, and they'll hang it up there 4-1, 4-2, and even been clocked at 4-3 bombs. And you kind of have that clock in your head as a returner. And the longer that ball stands up and you get into the paint of the end zone, I can still see a lot of guys kneeling down. But being that it's preseason, and like Tucker said, putting guys out there that are trying to make a roster spot, and it being a new kind of, it is new, new play in NFL, I see guys running it out deeper than they normally would. You tend to see the iron cross go out and they let it hit the end zone and live to fight another day, but they're also bumping it back to the 20-yard if they down it. And albeit it doesn't tip the fields to the 50, but if you catch it in the end zone and get tackled on the 18, that sure is a lot. You kind of feel bad coming to the sidelines. But I think we'll see kickoffs run out tonight, if nothing else, because it is new. And I think you'll see that early in the preseason. You tend to see more kicks run back anyways. But overall, to make a huge impact, they should have moved the kickoff back. They should have moved him back to the 30. At one time we did kick from the 30, safety's kicking off from the 20, but I think we'll see some exciting plays. I'm curious to see how they play it. How do they engage? Are they pulling people? Are they crossing? Are wedges being formed? Are there misdirections, handoffs? I mean, it could just be crazy. You just don't know. But I think it will probably be the most exciting kickoff ever in the history of preseason. I will say that.
Okay.
For sure.
Well, wow, that is a high bar to set. So let's do this. All right, moving on to the Bears side of the depth chart. And I should mention, if you're betting on this game tonight, the Texans are favored by 2 points. It was 1.5 yesterday, but that has been moved to 2. Any of you guys betting on this game tonight?
I might bet the money line. Is it still at 31.5?
I'm not sure. I know that the average is 30 points.
Total points, yes. It's still 31.5.
Probably right around there.
I didn't look. I just looked at the spread. Sorry.
I'll probably bet that. I mean, 31 backup quarterbacks, a lot of new offensive faces for the Bears. I could see it being a low scoring game,
Well, we saw Tyson Bagent. Is it Bagent?
Bagent. I think he says Bagent.
Yeah.
Bagent. We saw him last season. His dad even got some hype, if I remember. So I'm sure he'll be playing because they've already announced that Caleb Williams is not going to be playing. But so he's had some reps. We'll see how he does tonight. Where are you most interested to see? Who are you most interested to see play tonight, Dave, on this roster?
Offensively for the Bears, I'm looking at this Tyler Scott versus Velus Jones matchup right here. These guys were 3rd and 4th round picks in back-to-back drafts, both speed vertical threats. Velus Jones was really drafted for return prowess, which, back in 2022, there just wasn't that much opportunity for him to really make an impact. He's got more returns in his first 2 years than targets. I mean, he doesn't get a lot of the action in the passing game. He had a couple of big drops his rookie year, and it kind of just puts you in the doghouse right away. But now with this increased value in that return game, I don't know where they stand. DeAndre Carter, who is a veteran free agent they signed, he's a return specialist as well. So does this push Velus Jones out, or does this open the door to him, to the franchise telling him, hey, you're going to have to give us something more than just being a backup returner. And this is the kind of game where he'll probably never see more snaps than he will tonight in a game. And Tyler Scott is a absolute explode, a missile that can get downfield and over the top of the defense, but he just didn't do much as a rookie. In limited opportunities, he just did not capitalize last year. So I'm looking at those two guys, and I want to see which one of those receivers stands out, because they do. And in these games, they can be tough to watch a backup to a backup quarterback because they just don't put the ball where they need to. But Bajan, it tells me something that the Bears did not go after a veteran quarterback backup this year for Caleb Williams, which is very common for young rookie quarterbacks, because they believe in this kid so much. He went 2-2 last year as a starter.
Yeah, absolutely. Tucker, what are you excited to see tonight? Any names on this depth chart that stand out to you?
Yeah, really quick. I want to say first, though, is that on their depth chart they released for the first game, they have Carter as the starting punt returner and Velus Jones as the starting kick returner, and then vice versa for the backups. So it pretty much looks like they're competing for. I mean, they could end up both making the team, but yeah, it looks like they're both kind of competing for both roles. Cool. I feel like them signing Carter more pushed down Pettis, because Pettis was one of the guys they had be a returner for them last year. But I totally agree. I want to see that whole second string there play at receiver and see how they do. For me, I'm kind of interested to see the tight ends, because they have a few guys there on offense. I don't know who'll be playing there. If the older guys like Gerald Everett and Mercedes Lewis will play. But I do want to see
Mercedes Lewis going into his 29th season.
Yeah.
Bless him.
Yeah, he's 40 now.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. He is an old man. Yeah, you're right. Jared Everett and Mercedes, I imagine they won't play tonight.
Yeah, but I could see Steven Carlson making the team. So I want to see kind of if they show any promise here tonight. And same goes with the running back room too. Ian Wheeler has some return ability as well. And I don't know how many they'll end up keeping there. Definitely the top 3 there with Swift, Herbert, and Rashawn Johnson. But we're kind of tough to see if they end up keeping Travis Homer and what they do there. So yeah, but outside of that, I'm probably looking at the kind of backup cornerbacks. Like if you scroll down to the defense, they have a lot of guys listed at nickel. I kind of want to see who ends up kind of winning there. I used to have Josh Blackwell ahead, but on their depth chart, they had Stroman ahead for the second string nickel. And Reddy Stewart's competing there as well. So yeah. I'm kind of looking in the secondary, like the safety spot depth behind Jaquan Brisker and Kevin Byard is pretty weak. So I want to see who wins out there, and then the cornerback spots too.
All right, and we also have we have the debut of new OC Shane Waldron, right? So we're going to see a new scheme for the Bears. What do we know about him, Dave?
I started off, his first offensive coordinator job was actually under Charlie Weiss at Notre Dame, 2007-ish, 2008, back when he left New England to be the head coach there. And then he actually got hooked up with Weiss's former boss, Bill Belichick, in New England as an offensive staff coach, offensive quality control, which is basically kind of like an entry-level gig for an NFL coaching staff. Left the league for a little bit, comes back, and now he was under Sean McVay in Los Angeles, got a job there, and basically just moved as the NFL started picking coaches off that staff, Zach Taylor, Matt LaFleur. He kind of fell into those spots. So he kind of rose his way through the ranks. And then he had the last 3 years, he got hooked up with Pete Carroll in Seattle as the offensive coordinator there. And there's two sides to this, right? It sounded like some of the players on the Seahawks were very happy to see him go. In the same breath, I think he was very much responsible for the revival of Geno Smith's career. So, the offense never really got above mediocrity in Seattle, but they never had the bottom fall out like they did in previous seasons. And now he's working with an offensive skill group and just overall with the situation here that I think is much better than what they had in Seattle. So definitely a balanced play caller. He does not throw to the tight end a lot. They're big on 11 personnel for some of the systems that he's come from, both in Seattle and Los Angeles. And you can kind of see that with what they did to this offensive personnel group is they tried to go 11 personnel happy. I think you're going to see 3 wide receivers on the field as much as any team in the NFL when you're looking at this depth chart. So it's going to, I don't think you're going to see a new scheme tonight per se. I think it's very vanilla, very basic, but it's definitely as preseason goes, something to keep an eye on, especially when Caleb gets on the field.
Do we know the starters for Texans defense yet? Have they finalized that?
In terms of the front? Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty, I look at it as a pretty easy group to figure out who's starting. I don't think you're going to see them on the field tonight. But yeah, I think that we're still going to probably have to wait and see another week in terms of how they rotate these guys in and out. But what the Ourlads has on the depth chart it's a pretty easy defense to figure out who's going to be first string there.
Well, I was just saying, I think that if the first team gets any reps against the Bears tonight, it could be a bloodbath.
Yep, absolutely.
it could be really bad. New OC, the Bears offensive line is somewhat revamped a little bit, coming back, and you get Junior, Anderson.
Might be the best pass rush duo there.
Yeah, and Daniel Hunter. I mean, it's what? Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. Hopefully, we get a little ones versus ones, but I know if it is, it might be fleeting.
Yeah, it'll probably just
probably won't.
Defense is Dave. Defense is more likely than offense, though, right? Like to see first string.
Yeah, I think so. And literally, you'll probably see them if they are on the field. It'll probably be a drive.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah, I just don't think there's going to be much to take away. I know we all want to take something away from tonight's game from that regard, but I will watch every second of this game, every play. But it's really going to be who are the back, who are the back four players of each roster. That's kind of like what you want to go into it saying, Marcus Harris, the 7th round pick that we have highlighted in orange, the 7th rounder from Auburn, does he look like a guy that can step in for the void Danico Autry suspension as an interior pass rusher? Can he be a guy that, definitely makes this roster? Or is he going to be more of a practice squad guy? That's what we get out of a game like this.
Absolutely. All right. Well, great preview, guys. If you want to watch the game, it is on tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time on ABC and ESPN. You can watch the Pro Bowl inductees as well. We didn't get into the Pro Bowl inductees, but that's for another show. Anybody you're excited to see inducted? Dave, Corey, Tucker?
Oh, Devin Hester.
Devin Hester, yeah. Speaking of return specialists.
Maybe he can win the Bears returner job.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking. I'm a Dwight Freeney fan. The 1 year he played at Cardinals, he was great. And so I like to see him getting in. So that's good too. Well, thank you so much for joining me, guys. Tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter. That's where I'm most active right now. Ourlads_Cy. Putting out something every day. I'm personally putting out a personal top 32 for the 25 NFL draft. Just guys, keep an eye on as the season approaches. We'll eventually have an Ourlads preseason all rookie team. That's something that we've been doing for a few years now in terms of making weekly all rookie teams. That is really based on research and film studies. So we'll have some information. And then as we get closer to the season, we want to put out a lot of content on which rookies and maybe even some second-year players that are performing well in preseason and who to keep an eye on, because it's not always the guys that are picked in the top 10. A lot of times it's guys that are picked day 2, day 3.
Great. And Corey, we have some Ourlads insider news coming up soon.
Yeah, hopefully here in 2 weeks. So pay attention to the website when you go on there to get those preseason depth charts, making changes slowly, and you can find Ourlads Football YouTube channel making its appearance on there as well. Easy to find, easy to follow.
Yep, absolutely. Make sure to subscribe to Ourlads Football YouTube channel and find us across all social media at Ourlads Football. Please like this video, leave some comments, and we'll be sure to respond to them. And otherwise, we will see you next week at the same time, same place.
Come.